Welcome back, participants, speaker, and moderator. We are delighted to have you joining the premier Digital Summit Vietnam Digital Future 2022. Thank you for making the time. We want to say a big thank you everyone for the support, especially for our supporting event partner and sponsor, Blue Seed Group, Brands Vietnam, Vietnam Insider, Think Zone Venture, and our sponsor Mo Engage. We had an exciting program yesterday and thank you for coming back again to join us. Today's session will be focusing on AI, brand management, and customer analytics. Kính thưa tất cả quý vị khán giả, các diễn giả cũng như các khách mời danh dự của chúng tôi, rất cảm ơn các bạn đã dành thời gian để tham dự buổi hội nghị thượng đỉnh kỹ thuật số Việt Nam 2022, tương lai của ngành kỹ thuật số ngày hôm nay. Chúng tôi cũng xin gửi lời cảm ơn trân trọng nhất vì sự ủng hộ và giúp đỡ của tất cả các bạn, đặc biệt là các đối tác và nhà tài trợ của chúng tôi, tập đoàn Blue Seed, cộng đồng Brands Việt Nam, Vietnam Insider, quỹ đầu tư Think Zone và nhà tài trợ Mo Engage. Sau buổi hội nghị vô cùng thú vị và bổ ích vào ngày hôm qua, rất cảm ơn quý vị khán giả đã tiếp tục đồng hành với chúng tôi trong ngày thứ hai của hội nghị với những nội dung chính như sau: trí tuệ nhân tạo AI, quản lý nhãn hàng và phân tích người tiêu dùng. Before we begin our conference program, we'd like to highlight some of the things you can do during the event. One, you can visit the booth and get engaged with the exhibitor by video call, chatting, or even download their clickable link. Two, you can encourage your speaker and moderator by giving them a thumbs up emoji or even wave to them. Three, there is a speaker's lounge available for you to network with the speaker. Four, we have created a lounge for you to network with one another. Please do maximize the use of the lounge to gain more business deals. Five, there will be a 15-minute Q&A session for on-panel discussion. Please raise up your question and bring it onto the panelists. The Q&A button is at the top right of your screen. Six, we'll be sending you a survey form at the end of the event. Please help us to improve by giving us your thoughts about the whole program, or you could even give us some suggestions and topics for our next in-person event. Seven, if you wish to know more about the future event, connect with us. Alright, now let's begin. Sit tight and enjoy the program. Trước khi bắt đầu chương trình hội nghị, chúng tôi xin phép được nhấn mạnh một số điểm như sau. Một, quý vị có thể tham quan các gian hàng và giao lưu với các nhà triển lãm thông qua những cuộc gọi điện video, trò chuyện hoặc thậm chí là tải xuống các đường liên kết của họ. Hai, bạn có thể ủng hộ các diễn giả bằng cách thả biểu tượng cảm xúc yêu thích hoặc vẫy tay chào các diễn giả của chúng ta. Ba, chúng tôi có cung cấp các phòng chờ để quý vị có thể kết nối trực tiếp với các diễn giả. Chúng tôi cũng tạo ra một phòng chờ để quý vị khán giả có thể kết nối trực tiếp với nhau và hãy tận dụng tối đa phòng chờ để đạt được nhiều giao dịch kinh doanh nhất có thể. 5. Sẽ có một phiên hỏi đáp kéo dài trong khoảng 15 phút cho tất cả các cuộc thảo luận. Quý vị khán giả hãy vui lòng đặt ra câu hỏi và chuyển tới cho chúng tôi. Nút hỏi đáp thì nằm ở ngay phía trên cùng bên phải màn hình của bạn. 6. Các phiếu khảo sát sẽ được gửi tới quý vị khán giả sau khi buổi hội nghị ngày hôm nay kết thúc. Những cảm nhận và góp ý của quý vị khán giả sẽ giúp chúng tôi ngày càng hoàn thiện hơn. Và ngoài ra thì quý vị khán giả cũng có thể đưa ra các đề xuất hay là gợi ý về những chủ đề cho những sự kiện trực tiếp của chúng tôi trong thời gian sắp tới. Và cuối cùng, nếu như quý vị khán giả muốn kết nối trực tiếp với chúng tôi để biết thêm thông tin chi tiết về các sự kiện trong thời gian tới của chúng tôi. Và bây giờ thì hội nghị thượng đỉnh về kỹ thuật số Việt Nam 2022 xin phép được chính thức bắt đầu. Our first speaker of today is CEO of YouGov Vietnam, Quist Thomasen. Today, he will be speaking on the topic, "Time is right for Vietnam's digital future." It is a bold vision of digital future. Vietnam is aiming for its digital economy to account for 30% of GDP by 2030. Not only will business strengthen their technological approach and strategy, but there will be more incentive to digitize their business administration and production activities from 2021 to 2025. Training, consultancy, and access to digital solutions will be improved. COVID-19 has accelerated the shift toward digitization for many businesses across the country, and it has highlighted the importance of technology and digital transformation. So in this session, Mr. Thue Thomasen, CEO of YouGov Vietnam, will cover on competing and meeting customer expectations with the time is right for Vietnam's digital. Diễn giả đầu tiên của chúng tôi ngày hôm nay là Giám đốc điều hành của YouGov Việt Nam, ông Thue Thomasen, với phần chia sẻ về một tầm nhìn táo bạo dành cho tương lai của ngành kỹ thuật số Việt Nam. Việt Nam đã hướng tới mục tiêu nền kinh tế kỹ thuật số chiếm 30% GDP vào năm 2030. Các doanh nghiệp không chỉ tăng cường chiến lược và phương pháp tiếp cận công nghệ của mình mà còn tạo ra các động lực để số hóa các hoạt động kinh doanh, quản trị hoạt động sản xuất từ năm 2021 đến năm 2022. Đến năm 2025, đào tạo, tư vấn và tiếp cận các giải pháp kỹ thuật số. Covid-19 thì đã thúc đẩy quá trình chuyển đổi số cho nhiều doanh nghiệp trên khắp cả nước và nêu bật lên tầm quan trọng của công nghệ và chuyển đổi số đối với sự phát triển của một tổ chức trên tất cả các lĩnh vực. Trong phiên thảo luận này thì ông Thomasen, giám đốc điều hành của YouGov Việt Nam sẽ chia sẻ về việc cạnh tranh và đáp ứng kỳ vọng của khách hàng trong bối cảnh kỹ thuật số của Việt Nam. Xin mời ông ạ.
Yes, good morning. I hope you can hear me clearly. Thank you very much for inviting me to do the opening speech for today. I think it's an impressive program you guys have created, and I'm honored to set the stage for what will be the conference today. Just very briefly about myself, I'm CEO of YouGov Vietnam. I've been working with market research in Vietnam for the past 14 years. I'm also chairman of the Nordic Chamber of Commerce here, and have a bit of background in actually doing marketing and sales at a market research group previously. So in YouGov Vietnam, we help brands explore, plan, activate, and track in order for them to do better marketing activities. And we do that by collecting and building an ever-growing source of connected consumer intelligence. And we've been doing that in Vietnam for the past 7 years, and this is what we call living data. And it's this database that I will dive into over the next few minutes, just to give you an idea about the digitalization of the economy here, a few data points that will help set the frame for today's program. We've been open in Vietnam for the past 2 years, and we contribute quite a lot to conferences and articles and so on, which also makes us one of the most quoted research companies in the country. So first of all, I mean, the topic of today is digitalization, and I think a lot have been going on in the past couple of years here. In Vietnam, we have a very high rate now of smartphone subscriptions. The rate of internet users is reaching a maturity, a percentage of the population that's very similar to very developed market around the world. And in Vietnam, you must remember that the millennials and Gen Z of the country, they cover 46% of the population. And these groups are often the catalysts for digitalization and for growth in this area. And this can, of course, also be seen in the tech scene in the country, where the collective revenue increase of these companies in 2021, a very tough year otherwise, reached 10%. I think it's important also to remember that the government has a lot of focus on digital transformation in this country, both through their different initiatives, but also resolutions enabling the digital economy to grow in the country. However, we have seen major hurdles in the way, and I think everyone working in Vietnam and especially in some of the more tech-driven parts like e-commerce can recognize this. I mean, we have in Vietnam an excessive paper-based bureaucracy, and these are some of the things that really were challenged during lockdown. We have a very strong preference for cash historically, and then I think some of the grocery sellers have been fighting with this deep love for touching vegetables and other goods before purchasing them. So of course we are emerging from not long ago where wet markets were predominant, and that of course gives certain challenges in terms of how people want to interact with goods. And I think up till a certain point in 2021, we saw things moving on as business as usual. The global trends in terms of increased digitalization, increased e-commerce, it didn't really hit Vietnam. Vietnam's e-commerce sector, of course, still grew in 2020 and beginning of 21, but that is more as a result of just having a strong sector that continues its growth path. But that all changed almost overnight when Vietnam and most of the country went into extreme lockdown, and this really generated a boost and a push for digitalization in the country. So in many ways, 2021 really became a year of digitalization for Vietnam, and I think for many sectors affected by this will really be a turning point in their businesses. Now, if we look at Vietnam compared to the rest of the world, I want to look a little bit at finance first, because the finance sector, the payment systems in place to a very high degree is driving a lot of the digitalization in business. And the interesting thing is, when we ask people all around the world if it's safe to manage finances online, then you suddenly find Vietnam at pair with the rest of the world. And interestingly enough, when you look at a chart like this, a few years ago you would see very much a trend going from developing economies towards developed economies. That has changed. You can see Singapore being behind Vietnam. You can see Poland being in front, India being in front. So we don't see these traditional emerging world versus developed world trends, and it's much more important to look at the internal structures in the countries and how ready the government, the population, the businesses are to drive change. We can also see this now turning into an expectation that financial service providers nowadays should offer their services online. So consumers now really have a preference for buying online. That preference in Vietnam is challenged a bit then when we compare, and you can see in Vietnam, when we ask if you prefer offline or online, Vietnam is really at a stage where the hybrid model is the winner, and where businesses need to be able to not just cater for both types of customers, but also cater for the ones in the middle here who want an even split. So sometimes you would want to go to a brick and mortar store, but you are ready to perhaps take your next purchase online. Now, one of the challenges I touched upon was the cash payments, and this really changed in Vietnam during lockdown. We could see preference for e-wallets being high. We saw cash on delivery dramatically lowered, and I think in many ways this challenged the industry of delivery companies, e-commerce, who were used to a business model of cash delivery, and really had to accept that you not just need to have cashless payments, but also contactless delivery. An interesting thing emerged here, and we're following that quite closely, is then during the lockdown period, from you can see the darker red color to the more pinkish color, a little bit later in the lockdown, you saw consumers going for the more traditional online payment forms. And in that sense, you saw an increase in bank transfers, and you saw an increase in ATM card, debit card, or bank card payments, which is quite interesting. It also speaks to the agility of the old banking sector in Vietnam and their ability to provide state-of-the-art apps, etc. Now, a lot of focus has been on the e-wallets, and I think to a high extent we see Momo being a constant market leader, and what is really interesting to follow is then the emergence of the other players. Viettel Pay have played a very strong role, especially in rural areas, but now we really see Salo Pay and Shopee Pay being able to use their platforms to also strengthen their payment or their e-wallets. And I think that's an important one to watch. You can see both of them gaining traction really fast, which really suggests smart strategies being applied, a good way of integrating into super apps, etc. We also saw e-commerce get a definitive boost, and this is data for basically expectations for the future. And you can see both for 2021 and 2022, there's a huge boost in people who want to shop online more. We'll of course be following how this is sustained now in our new normal period. Online groceries, an important one to follow, and I think this was the one that really got traction. And online grocery also, it's a business where you really need volume in order to create profits. And the interesting thing that I think will help to shape this subsector here is and what will affect the whole e-commerce sector is the new players that enter the market because of groceries. So you see here very much regional leaders, Vinmart in the north, Bakwasan in the south, and these players will have tons of consumer interactions that, if they play it smart, can leverage to gain into many other categories. When we look at media, it's a little bit more of a mixed story, because we see especially the access to news slowing down a little bit on social media websites. Television, of course, all over the world had a boost during COVID. But then we see new things emerging, a huge increase in access to newspaper websites. And then we see this increase in radio in Vietnam, driven very much by mobile phone. So there are some changes, but not as clear in terms of moving from from offline to online. I think this is an area that is already very digitalized without that many barriers of entry. So to conclude at the end here, and to set the scene for the day, I think it's important to consider that Vietnam is well equipped for digital transformation, and this is underpinned by the government. So not only a high internet penetration and a willingness to adapt, but also a government that supports this. The financial service industry has undergone rapid transformation, especially with more cashless transactions, but other things will come in terms of investment products, new trends we're looking at. For e-commerce and online grocery, this has been triggered by COVID-19 and continues to accelerate in 2022. And then traditional ways of accessing media continues to be replaced by digital means. So these were a few words from me and from our YouGov team. And I hope you will take some of this as background learnings for when you enter the rest of the program today. And otherwise have a wonderful day today. And I hope you take home a lot of findings from the different sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Thomasen, for your very interesting sharing. And if you wish to know more, you can connect with us to reach. Thank you.